Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Steven Melendez, and I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest in soccer news from around the world. Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite soccer podcast. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We got Champions League football, the MLS playoffs are getting underway, Europa League. Of course, we just got all those reverse legs coming now. We got those teams looking for some revenge. So let's just get right into it, talking about what we're going to be going into in today's show. For the first part of the show, we're going to be talking about the Champions League Tuesday recap. And then, of course, we have the Wednesday games that I'm going to be previewing. In the second part of the show, we're going to be recapping all of the first round of the MLS playoffs. We got a lot of exciting games, some pretty crazy ones at that. So I just can't wait to get into that. And then in the third part of the show, we have the Europa League preview. Just going to be talking about each matchup we have going on and what the implications are for who wins, who loses. There are a lot of them, so we will have to go through them pretty quick. But yeah, that's what the third part of the show is going to be about. And then in the last part, always my favorite, we're going to be talking about the top 10 Poland players in the world right now. As you guys know already, I have that series going on with talking about each of the top 20 countries in the FIFA World Rankings. We are now at number 18, which is Poland, so we're going to be getting into those. Obviously, I'm sure you guys know one of them. He'll most likely be number 1, but we'll have to wait and see for that. So let's just get right into today's show, talking about the Champions League Tuesday recap. And we're going to be starting that off with the early games between Chelsea and Rennes and Sevilla and Krasnodar. So starting with Chelsea, this was almost 3 points missed, like a not crucial 3 points, because Chelsea's clearly, for that, Chelsea and Sevilla were clearly favorites in this group, and they've been running away with it. They've taken advantage of the games that they were expected to win, but this one looked like one that was going to slip away from them, because early on in this game, they were certainly putting a lot of pressure on Rennes and making them feel them, and were getting a lot of opportunities in that final third. They just weren't being that clinical with those chances, specifically Timo Werner. He looked very off in this game. Not sure what's going on there, whether it's all that traveling with the German team, with his national team, and then obviously having to come back and playing some Premier League games, and now Champions League. It's a lot. It's a lot of games. But Kai Havertz just did the same thing, and he looked better in this game than Timo Werner. Werner missed a tap-in goal. I don't care if it's bouncing. A striker of his caliber needs to put that home. When a club pays 50-something million for your services, you need to be putting in those bunnies. And he just did not do it. And there were a few chances throughout this game that he just completely missed. So, like I said, they did get that early goal from Callum Hudson-Odoi, and really that goal from Hudson-Odoi was all Mason Mount. Further down the pitch, he fought extremely hard. His work rate is ridiculous. We've known this since last season. And dude, to be able to win the ball back and then find Hudson-Odoi making that run inside the box and just pass it to him perfectly. It was still a solid goal from Hudson-Odoi, but I mean, that all of the build-up was Mason Mount. So definitely got to give him credit there. And Chelsea's defense has certainly been better since the early parts of the season, but there are definitely things that they can still clear up. I mean, Rennes, like, the first half wasn't that easy for Rennes to get anything going. However, that, like the end of that first half was a sign of things to come. The French side were just being much more effective in that final third and were getting more chances, and it kind of felt like they were eventually going to break through, and they did in the 85th minute, which is why it just felt like Chelsea were going to give up these points. I mean, it even felt like it was possible for them to lose this game with the amount of momentum that Rennes were having in that second half. But never fear, Frenchman Olivier Giroud comes through once again with an extra time header that was so nice. I mean, Timo Werner, he not looking confident, just hits a poor shot. It gets saved by the goalkeeper of Rennes, and it goes up in the air so high. It just kind of felt like eventually a defender was going to clear it, and that was it for the chance for Chelsea. And in extra time, it's the chances are very, very few and far between. But then here comes Olivier Giroud. Just what a beautiful header. Literally nothing, like it was all him to be able to put just enough on it and high enough that the goalkeeper couldn't stop it. The defender tried heading it and didn't work. Gets Chelsea that 2-1 lead. Very, very important 3 points to try to at least lead this group because they're already into the knockout rounds now with this win. But I mean, if they can now win against Sevilla, or do they have a game against Sevilla? Let's check that out real quick here. What's that last game for them? We're gonna check that out right now together. That last game is against Sevilla. Yes, it is. So that's gonna be a very, very exciting match. Well, it's not the last one. It's match day 5. This is match day 4. It's the second part of the of the matches for the group stage. But yes, they do take on Sevilla in the next match. That's going to set up a very important game there to see who can win this group. But very, very good game from Chelsea and a late winner. And for the Sevilla game, and we got a late winner in that one as well. I mean, they got off to an electric start as Rakitic did what Rakitic does. With a very strong shot from outside the box to open up the scoring. Sevilla did keep up the pressure in the first half and got a few chances in the Krasnodar final third, but just couldn't get a shot on target. In the second half, Krasnodar brought out the number 10, Wanderson, to try to inject some energy into their attack, but and it certainly helped. They were getting more opportunities and just seemed to get more confidence in that final third. And it eventually resulted in a goal. They got a really good, solid team play going, and it was rewarded with a Wanderson goal. So their substitute was able to get that goal, the equalizer, to make it 1-1. And Sevilla were still putting pressure. They were getting a lot of opportunities. They just couldn't really get a solid ball on that final ball. A solid contact on the final ball, I'm trying to say. And it kind of felt like this game was going to end 1-1. And Sevilla were going to miss a chance on getting 3 points here against a team that they're clearly better than. But Munir El Haddadi was very, very persistent in this game. I mean, he was really shooting away. He probably had, of the 23 shots that Sevilla shot, I would not be surprised if he had close to half of them, because he was all over the place for Sevilla, and he was rewarded for his energy and scored a 95th, literally the last minute of the game. He scored a very solid goal inside the box to give Sevilla the 2-1 win and keep pace with Chelsea in the group. So next we're going to move on to Manchester United versus Istanbul Basakse here. And in this game, I mean, Man U just looked so dominant. There was something in this game about their passing. I mean, I haven't been watching all of their games, so I'm not sure if they've just been like this for a while now, but I mean, in the games I saw them against PSG and even their last game against Istanbul, they didn't really look like this, where they were just passing the ball so crisply. I probably said that word real wrong, but it's just it was just so good. Their team play, their link up play, going up the field. I'll tell you what, Adding Edison Cavani into that starting lineup certainly helps with that because he is excellent at passing, at linking up with teammates, and he's so unselfish, and his work rate is amazing. It's one of the reasons I love Edison Cavani. He's one of my favorite players. I mean, obviously, he played for PSG. He's their all-time leading scorer, so there's a reason for that. But it's not just the fact that he scores goals. It's the way that he, like, what I'm trying to say? Like, it's just the way he plays. He puts his heart out there 100%. He doesn't really care about, who scores the goal. Obviously, he's usually the one to do it because he's a striker and he works so hard. But that's not his main goal. It's to win the game. And man, did Manchester United really win this game. I mean, Bruno Fernandes, what can I say? The guy's an absolute star. I mean, his first shot in the 7th minute, that was just a rocket from outside the box that nobody was going to stop. In the 19th minute, he got a really easy bunny shot, so it was nothing crazy. But then it just, in the 35th minute, Marcus Rashford gets, or I guess it was like the 33rd or 32nd minute, he gets fouled in the box, scores a goal in the 35th minute as a penalty to give Man United a 3-0 lead going into the half, and it was pretty, it was over from there because Basakse here, I mean, yeah, they got some shots, but I mean, for the most part, most of those shots were from outside the box. They weren't getting a lot of, effective opportunities and clear-cut chances. Manchester United were just overall were just dominant in this game, even though possession was pretty even. You could just tell that Manchester United were pretty much on cruise control for most of this game. And in the end, it did kind of hurt them in the second half because Basakse here, yes, they got a goal in the 75th minute. A really nice free kick from Denis Turuk. It actually looked like they had saved it, but on further review, it obviously the ball had passed the line, so it was not a clear save. And Istanbul were certainly putting pressure. I mean, they had a few shots hit the bar, and they could have made it 3-2, but ultimately they didn't. And Daniel James scored in extra time to make it 4-1 and make it a clear, easy win for Manchester United. They now lead their group by 3 points and look very solid. I mean, they've looked solid in the Champions League overall. I mean, to be able to beat teams like RB Leipzig and PSG, that's huge. And their only loss was really to Basakse here, so you knew they weren't going to come out flat. They were coming out, going to be firing on all cylinders, and they certainly did just that. So next we're going to be talking about Barcelona versus Dynamo Kiev, and they didn't play most of their first team starters, and they still won this game 4-0. That's the amount of talent that Barcelona has. It really is no surprise. I mean, they're on the top of their group for a reason. But for the most of this game, it was kind of boring, to be honest. I mean, you're watching this game. Yes, Barcelona are dominating possession. They're certainly putting pressure on Dynamo. They even with most of their first team starters out, they have more quality than Dynamo. It's just the way it is. Trincao, guys like Serginho Dest. Martin Braithwaite was getting a lot of opportunities, and they're still just more talented. But the thing is, when you put these guys that don't normally play together in a game like this, it takes a little while for them to get acclimated to the play style of the Champions League, and it took them 45 minutes because once the second half started, it all changed. Serginho Dest got his goal in the 52nd minute, and I'm always happy for that because USA international, and a big time prospect of that. So it was a nice goal from him. He started that team play and ended it with a goal, and then after that the floodgates opened. Martin Braithwaite scored a really nice goal off a corner kick in the 57th minute. He then was pushed and got inside the box and got a penalty in the 70th minute. And then just to add that little cherry on top, Antoine Griezmann scored in the extra time to make it 4-0. So, yeah, it was just, an overall dominant victory for Barcelona. You got to expect it. Anytime they're not taking on Juventus in this group, you got to expect 3 points, and they did that. I mean, and the good thing, they were able to rest most of their first team starters. So just good things all around for Barcelona in this match. Next, we have the game that really frustrated me the most. I mean, unfortunately, I was not actually able to watch all these games because when it was going on, I was working. And yes, I do have one of those 9-to-5 jobs. It sucks when you got Champions League going on, and I realize it's Monday to Friday 9 to 5, and I will not be able to watch Champions League for the rest of the season because that's the only time they ever are. So it just sucks. Maybe I can try to get a day off, say I'm sick or something during one of the PSG knockout round games, but whatever. I need the money, so let's just be real. I'm probably not going to do that, but we're getting into the PSG game now. PSG versus RB Leipzig, and PSG were able to win 1-0. And even though they did win this game, they kind of didn't deserve to win. I mean, RB Leipzig were playing much better. They were getting more possession. They were pressuring PSG, weren't allowing them to get into the actions that they usually, like to do. And it was letting RB Leipzig pretty much live in the PSG half. It was frustrating the hell out of me when I was seeing these highlights because it was pretty much no PSG highlights. There was nothing that PSG, were doing right. I mean, yes, they got that goal in pretty much the start of the game, and it wasn't really a goal. It was a penalty from Neymar. I mean, those are usually like no-brainers, even though, of course, anything can happen. Of course, the goalkeeper can stop it, but Neymar usually gets it done there. But it's just that after that, there was just nothing. It just felt like there was no actions, there was no togetherness on offense, and that's just the one thing that always drives me absolutely crazy with PSG. I mean, if you told me why I am a PSG fan, if you really asked me, if you saw me and you're like, yeah, Steve, why are you a PSG fan? I mean, they pay a lot of money for stars. They don't really play well with them anyways. It's like, why are you a PSG fan? And I would always tell you, it's because I liked Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and he was playing for PSG at the time. So and I'm just one of those guys is that once I'm a fan of a team, it's really hard for me just to choose a different team from heart. But I rarely watch PSG games. It's impossible to get French games here in the States, and I don't know. It's just so frustrating to watch this team just flounder, and even on wins, it's like there's still something bad to say about them because they just don't make it look comfortable. Like a team like Manchester United, which of course there's always going to be talks about, can they win the league? Why are they playing so bad in the league? But it's the Premier League, there's actually something to talk about. Like in Ligue 1, it's nothing. PSG are supposed to win. If they're not, it's catastrophic. For Manchester United, obviously starting off bad isn't good. But it's not catastrophic that they don't win the league when they're going up against teams like Liverpool and Manchester City. It's just different. So it just sucks to see PSG like barely win this game. Like when I was watching these highlights and I just saw RB Leipzig with the ball in the final third because I didn't know what happened. I didn't want to look into the highlights and know what happened. I just wanted to watch as if I was watching it for the first time, which I was. And so every time they got the ball in the final third, or even when they just had possession, I was like, oh God, here we go. They're going to tie this game up, and we're going to be in huge trouble. And we would have been. I mean, we needed to get this win. After losing the reverse leg against them the last time out and losing to Manchester United, we needed to get this win. So we did, and obviously now we're tied with RB Leipzig, ahead of them on away goals after scoring one in the last game against them. And now we go up against Manchester United next. That's going to be a huge game. But yeah, let's just move on. We're going to be talking about Lazio versus Zenit. And Lazio took care of business, defeating Zenit 3-1. And that was, it was much needed, man. It was very much needed for them to keep up with Dortmund for a chance to lead the group, and they look very solid. I mean, obviously Lazio are known for their attack, and Immobile was certainly a big time part of that attack, and he took care of business, man. Got a goal in the 3rd minute and a really, really nice taken goal at that. I mean, the goalkeeper didn't even try to save it because he didn't think it was going to go in. It just looped over him, and it was just really well taken. And then Marco Parolo, the captain scored from like almost 30 yards out. Just a ridiculous goal. I didn't think that was going to go in, but so they were up 2-0 early on in this game. Kind of felt like they were going to run away with it, but that lead didn't stay that way for long because Zuba, the veteran striker, scores in the 25th minute to give Zenit that opening goal that they needed, but they couldn't really take the momentum any further and ended up losing 3-1 because Immobile got a penalty in the 55th minute, sorry about that. Kind of ran out of air there, and it was a clear-cut penalty, and they just needed to, he took care of business. He got that penalty score, and they got 3-1, and they got 3 points, and now they're just 1 point behind Borussia Dortmund, who are obviously the best team in this group. So that game against them is going to really be very, very important. So now let's talk about Club Brugge versus Borussia Dortmund. And in this game, Dortmund, they took care of business. I mean, this is honestly, in my opinion, the most dominant game that Dortmund have put together in the Champions League so far. So you can say this is like their coming out party, and they got two goals from Haaland, a goal from Jadon Sancho that was just a beautiful free kick goal just before the break. And their defense was as dominant as it's been all season. So just an absolute, dominant performance from them. They get an easy 3 points against Club Brugge that are pretty much the third best team in this group at the moment. And yeah, it's just a very solid 3 points. And I guess they don't officially get qualification into the knockout rounds, but they're pretty much there. 9 points, 5 ahead of Club Brugge. There's no way that anyone, they're going to catch them. So they can pretty much put their ticket in for the knockout rounds. And last, we got Juventus versus Ferencváros. And this game was a lot tighter than the stats really say. Because, yes, Juventus had way more shots. They had way more possession. But Ferencváros were really putting pressure on Juve. I mean, they got the opening goal in the 19th minute off a counter press because Juventus were really pressing up high to try to get a goal early on. They never got it. Ferencváros scored on the counter and really put the pressure on. And Juventus didn't really tie it up until Cristiano Ronaldo really bailed them out with a nice goal from outside the box. So they really needed to get one of those classic Ronaldo goals to really get back into this game. But then for the rest of the game, it was like they got opportunities, but they weren't really putting them home. And it kind of felt like they were going to eventually break through, but they didn't do it until extra time when Alvaro Morata got a nice header to, really put the game away. Now, yes, that gets them the 3 points. They get to stay within 3 points of Barcelona. I don't think they have a chance to overtake. I mean, of course, there's still 2 games left, so anything can happen, but I don't really see them getting the lead in this group. Barcelona are just playing way too good, and I mean, really, Juventus need to take advantage of that game against Barcelona to have a chance there. So we'll see how that goes, but we actually run out of time in this segment, so we're going to just end it there. Obviously, we got those Wednesday matchups coming up, and I'm going to be talking about those in my next show, just recapping those games just like I did with these. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But when I come back, we're going to be talking about the MLS playoffs first round.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we went over the Champions League Tuesday matches. Just, of course, recap those games and just, said, what that really means for the group in general. And, of course, some teams made it into the knockout rounds already. And now we're going to be talking about the MLS playoffs first rounds. Just going to be recapping the games. We had some crazy ones with some ridiculous endings, which is what we're going to be starting with as we can start this game. We start this with Orlando City versus New York City FC. And I mean, if none of you guys watched the highlights of this game, you should. I mean, really not the highlights of the whole game, because it really wasn't anything to go home and it was certainly back and forth. There was a lot of competitiveness. Just so you guys know, Orlando City did end up winning. It was a draw 1-1 in regulation, and then they won 6-5 in penalties. But you got to watch that penalty shootout. I mean, what ridiculousness. Technically I'm starting this segment off with I'm not really the best game, but the biggest story, because it was just, the referees just absolutely messed everything up. Let me just start first about how the game started, and then I'll eventually get to what happened in that penalty shootout. So, first, let me just say this is the first playoff win in franchise history for Orlando City. Obviously, we already know this is their first ever playoffs in general. So, this was a huge day for Orlando City and their fans. And of course, it's got to feel amazing. It's crazy that Nashville has already experienced their first win in their first season ever. So that's another story for another day. But they're the superstar Nani for Orlando City gets that opening goal with a penalty. He drew the foul, and not really drew the foul. He got a header onto the cross that was delivered to him, and Tinnerholm, one of the key players for New York City, it was really weird. He laid his hands out when he jumped, and the ball clearly hit him. It was a handball inside the box. Nani got the penalty, and he scored the goal, giving Orlando City that early lead. But it definitely did not last long, because literally 3 minutes later, Maxime Chanot scored in the 8th minute, and it was also from a header. So, not also from, you know what I'm trying to say. A header caused the penalty, but now Maxime scored from a header. So it was it's pretty much the same thing, guys. So this game had all the makings of a classic, because it was just back and forth action. Both teams were obviously really trying to get this win, and honestly, it felt like all the momentum was in New York's side. They were just continuously attacking Orlando City, putting pressure on them and not allowing them to just get into, whatever kind of rhythm they wanted. And they just couldn't really put it past Pedro Gallesi. That was really what this game came down to. The fact that Gallesi was an absolute superstar in this game. The kind of saves he made, like that one he made where he first saved from I forgot the striker's name, but it's in the back of my head, man. It's like at the tip of my tongue, kind of, but I can't really remember his name. But you know what? What am I doing? Let me just look him up real quick. New York City FC. Come on, I have a computer right in front of me. I can just look this up. Look up players. It's probably going to be one of the first. Castellanos. Castellanos scored. Not scored. He shot. He took a shot. Pedro Gallesi saved it, and then another player that was going for the rebound went for the shot, and Pedro Gallesi put out his arm and saved it. It's just it shouldn't have been saved, but Gallesi was just there and was able to make that save. So, this game is certainly, the man of the match certainly has to go to Gallesi, because he kept Orlando City in this game. Really, the Orlando defenders let him down big time. He should not have had to do what he had to do in this game, because it was just nonstop assault on him and the defense, and I mean, Orlando City, yeah, they got some opportunities, but they were also missing big time. They had 16 shots, but only 3 of those were on target. And this game just was all Gillespie, because even when this went into extra time, he also had to make some incredible saves there as well. And that was with Orlando City being at a man down, because Ruan Teixeira, the fullback, got a red card in the 87th minute. So they were without a man for about 30 minutes there. And, I mean, nothing happened in the extra time, so they went into penalties. And now that we're here, I mean, it started off normal. I mean, New York City actually missed their first shot. So they were already at a disadvantage there. But then Orlando were just, pulling away, getting a goal. Gillespie couldn't really stop another one, but still, they still had that 1-goal lead. But then the last goal, the goal that was going to call it for Orlando City, it wasn't Orlando City going for the goal. It was actually New York City. If they missed the goal, it was over. And Pedro Gillespie stepped up and saved it. It was huge. It was a huge moment for Orlando City. What a way to win! A save for your first, a penalty save for your first franchise win. The crowd's going crazy. The players are going crazy. Hold up, wait a minute. The referees are calling it back. Gillespie had his foot off the line when he went to save it. He's getting a yellow card now? Oh, wait, he had a yellow card early in the game, so now he's sent off. Pedro Gillespie was sent off for stepping off the line. And this is the thing. These are the rules. I know people are saying that the rules are that you need to give a warning first. That is the new rule. However, with this season starting way earlier, I don't know how it really is, but technically they're still playing under the 2019-2020 rules, which means that once they are off the line, you instantly give them a yellow. That's what the rule is. At least for last year, which is the rules they're still technically playing by. I guess next season they're going to be using the new rules. But this year, that's the rule. And so they had to give him that yellow, and he got the red card. So he was out. So then this is where the whole mess happened. Because yes, but that was clean. That was fine. Okay, yes, that's technically the rule. You give him the yellow, fine. But now Orlando City are trying to substitute in their backup goalkeeper. Fine. Referee allows it to happen. But it shouldn't happen. That's not the way it works. You can't substitute the goalkeeper when there's a penalty, during a penalty take. It just doesn't, especially when he gets a red card, you can't do that. That's against the rules. But the referee lets it happen. But then he gets a little call on his mic, and he's like, wait a second, no. But this is already when the backup goalkeeper is between the sticks, and they're ready to take the kick. And they call him back. They tell him to go back. No, you can't do it. We need to get a position player to take over it in between the sticks. But then, there's talk on the sideline, and the referee's trying to figure things out. And he's like, you know what? Yeah. Let the backup goalkeeper come in. So he says the backup goalkeeper's like, all right, fine. He starts putting his gloves back on. He goes back out there. No. The referee tells him to go back. He was like back and forth. He told him to go back, and he was like, what are you talking about? And then eventually, the position player, I forgot who it was a center back for them. It was like Skirtle or something like that. It was like Skirtle. His last name was something Skirtle. Let me look it up. But yeah, so he ends up going into between the sticks, doesn't save the first one. He actually looked kind of silly trying to save it. It just was not happening for him. And then what happens? New York City score. Let me see. Oh, was it Schlegel? Yes, it was Rodrigo Schlegel. That's who it was. Who was the position player that was trying to that took over as a goalkeeper, and so he didn't save it. New York City score, but then Nani has a chance to end it and give Orlando City their first win. Sean Johnson saves it. And now the pressure was on. It was like, oh my goodness, this is just not what was supposed to happen. They were supposed to end it here, and that was game. Eventually, they were luckily able to win. And the funny part was, though, that when Schlegel ended up saving a shot, he ended up saving the next one. And when it happened, they were like, "Oh, the game's over. We won." So they're all celebrating, and then some time passes, but then the referee calls him back again because it wasn't actually over. Orlando City needed to score again in order to actually end it. So they lined it back up, and at this point it was just ridiculous. I mean, even the commentators were saying it. This is ridiculous. And they scored the goal, and then it was over. So all that happened. There's literally a video just for that penalty shootout. So if you have not watched it, you need to watch it. It was ridiculous, just absolutely ridiculous. So I've never seen that before. And the crazy thing was that the MLS referee, organization, whoever runs it, backed up that refereeing crew, which I'm like, dude, you cannot do that. For sure, maybe he didn't make the wrong decisions, but holding up the game, going back on his decisions, it was just unorganized and just not professional. So they needed to be penalized or something, because that was just terrible. All right, I've been talking way too long about this game, but it was just that crazy. But now we're going to be talking, and these other games we're going to be talking about a bit shorter because I can't be talking forever about these games. I can go on for an hour just on these MLS games, but I'm just not going to do that. So now we're going to be talking about Columbus Crew versus the New York Red Bulls. And Columbus Crew were able to inch by the New York Red Bulls 3-2, even though they were pretty much leading 3-1 late in this game. But the Red Bulls were able to get a goal in the 90th minute to make it close, but it just was too little, too late for the New York Red Bulls. Brian White getting that 90th minute goal, but I mean, you got goals from Darlington Nagbe in the second half. Same thing from Gyasi Zardes. Pedro Santos scored a penalty in the 26th minute to open up the scoring. But Columbus Crew just looked much more efficient in this game. I mean, they had 17 shots, 11 of those on target. The possession wasn't there. I mean, they had 46 possessions, so it was pretty much even. But yeah, they just looked more efficient in that final third and just looked like the better team overall, which they are. Even though New York Red Bulls certainly have had a solid season, they weren't at the level of the Columbus Crew, and for a long time the Crew were the best team in the MLS. They seem to show that here, at least on the offensive end. They need to do better defensively, even though they only allowed 4 shots on target. It just needs to be a bit more. What I'm trying to say, they need to tighten it up a little bit, especially moving forward. Even though that since they're in the East, they're now technically the highest seed in the Eastern Conference. So that's something. That's something crazy. I mean, they're going to have, at least in the Eastern Conference, if they make it, they'll have home court advantage or home field advantage the rest of the way. So that's definitely a plus for them. They're going to be looking forward, and they move on, and it's going to be exciting to see what happens from this point on. Next, we got the Sporting Kansas City. First seed Sporting Kansas City versus the San Jose Earthquakes. And man, did KC have a scare there. I mean, they looked absolutely on fire early on in this game. Roger Espinosa scoring in the 4th minute. And if you'd seen San Jose early, throughout this season, they were the worst defensive team. So it kind of just felt like this game was going to be a blowout. I mean, I felt it. I thought San Jose could score a goal, but I thought Sporting Kansas City were absolutely going to blow the roof off this place. But that just was not the way it went. After Sporting Kansas City got that goal, they weren't as clinical after that. I mean, they didn't score until the second half. But San Jose, they got 2 goals before halftime and went into the break up 2-1. Yes, right after halftime, the Sporting Kansas City were able to get that equalizer, and they didn't. And no other goals were scored until extra time. I mean, this game was an absolute nail biter because Gianluca Busio scored in the 1st minute of extra time to give Sporting Kansas City what looked to be the game winner. I mean, at that point, nobody had scored. I mean, San Jose hadn't scored since the first half. The momentum was like all Sporting Kansas City. They were just, they got their rhythm back, and they were like clearly winning most of the possession. I mean, at least in the second half, it looked that way. But what happened? Chris Wondolowski, the all-time leading goal scorer for the MLS, happened. Literally this game, the extra time was only supposed to go 5 minutes, but there was a lot of time wasting from Sporting Kansas City, and the referee allowed it to keep on going. And in the 7th minute of extra time, Wondolowski was able to get a diving header to go past the goalkeeper and get his San Jose Earthquakes into penalties. No, my apologies, into the extra time, that I don't know, well, overtime, I say overtime, but I mean, technically he scored in extra time, but then to let him go into extra time, it's just weird for me to say like that. But yeah, 3-3 going into extra time, and nothing happened there. There were certainly opportunities both ways, but none were able to put it past the goalkeepers, so they were heading into penalties. And man, I was expecting like a very exciting penalty shootout, but we just did not get it. I mean, you got to give it to what was it? I believe his last name was Ream. Tim Ream. Let me look it up real quick. Let me go to that Sporting Kansas City team. We go to players. What was that goalkeeper? Oh, Tim Melia. Bro, 3 straight penalty saves to send Sporting Kansas City into the next round. Huge. Just like legendary goalkeeping stuff from him to just absolutely shut down the San Jose Earthquakes in the penalties. It's just a game that just had everything going in regulation, just died down a bit late, and San Jose just didn't have anything left. And it sucks because this was Wondolowski's last game. Well, it looks to be his last game of his career. So, the first seeded Sporting Kansas City move on to the next round. Now we got Minnesota United versus Colorado Rapids, and I expected Minnesota United to win this game. I mean, with them having more veterans on the team, Colorado Rapids relying on a lot of youth. I just felt like the experience was going to win out, and it certainly did. I mean, Kevin Molino got a brace, got 2 goals, opened up the scoring in the 22nd minute. And then capped it off with a 79th minute goal. You got Robin Lod with a 54th minute goal to make it 2-0 just after halftime. And for the most part, I mean, this was back and forth game. I mean, you kind of felt like, especially early on, it felt like Colorado Rapids certainly deserved to have at least 1 goal here, but they just couldn't get past the goalkeeper. They just couldn't get past the defense. I mean, they had 18 shots, 7 on target, so that's not terrible. Possession was pretty even. Pass percentage was even. They had pretty much about the same amount of passes. So it's not like Minnesota United dominated them on the field, but in terms of being clinical in front of goal, they were certainly better. And to get that 3-0 win and move on to the next round, it's huge for Minnesota United. After playing extremely well in the MLS's back tournament, but then failing in that tournament round, this certainly feels good for them to finally get those that weight off those shoulders. Now we got FC Dallas versus Portland Timbers. I'm just going to say I called it. Maybe not in this fashion, but I called FC Dallas was going to beat the Portland Timbers. I did, when I was looking at predictions throughout, I did not see anybody saying, yeah, I can see Portland losing. No. I did actually see people saying that Philadelphia Union would lose, which I got to tip my hat to them. I mean, that was a big-time prediction. But, yeah, man, FC Dallas, they get a late goal from Ricardo Pepi in the extra time to tie the game after Jorge Villafaña scores in the 82nd minute, sends it into extra time, then it goes into penalties, and it ends 8-7 on penalties with Villafaña actually getting his penalty kick saved for FC Dallas to go into the next round. Next, we have a couple of incredible upsets coming up with New England Revolution defeating the Philadelphia Union 2-0. I mean, I did not see this coming. I mean, some people did. I don't know why, but I mean, Philadelphia Union were by far the best team in the MLS, and they had their players, but they were defeated 2-0. And it's not like they dominated New England and New England just kind of took advantage of those opportunities, which they got 2 goals in the first 30 minutes. I mean, and those 2 goals came in quick succession. Adam Buksa in the 26th and Taksong Buchanan in the 30th minute. And I mean, I really just cannot believe it. 59% possession from Philadelphia, so I guess that they did have most possession, but 15 shots to New England's 11. The same amount of shots on target from both. I mean, New England still had 73% passing of 355 passes. I mean, they weren't terrible, but I don't think they should have beaten the Philadelphia Union. But they did, and they move on to the next round. And then Nashville. Bro, I got to give it up for Nashville because, I mean, yes, of course I'm going to hate on them. They're the other expansion team. You know, I'm a fan of Inter Miami, so obviously I'm going to hate on them. But I have got to give them their props, man. They know what they're good at, and they stick to it. They stick to that game plan and just do it. Just play it so freaking well, man. I mean, I really can't believe that they have defeated the Toronto FC. I was about to say Toronto Raptors. I'm still thinking NBA, but Toronto FC 1-0 after a very competitive first 90 minutes. They go into extra time. First extra time, nothing happens, and then Daniel Rios scores in the 108th minute to give Nashville a historic 1-0 win, their first season, and they're moving on to the next round. And then lastly, the game I was looking forward to the most, but then COVID just like the real world hit and just absolutely decimated LAFC. But Seattle Sounders had their full complementary of players, and that was the difference in this game. Those guys came out to play and made a difference. Nicolas Loidero scored in the 18th minute. Raul Ruiz scored in the 66th. And the MVP finalist Jordan Morris scored in the 80th. Eduard Atuesta scored in the 77th to make it 2-1, make it a game, but then Jordan Morris scored literally 3 minutes later. This was kind of a no-doubter for Seattle Sounders. I mean, even though the possession was pretty even, shots were pretty even, it was competitive, but in the end, LAFC didn't have their stars, Seattle Sounders did, and that was the difference. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys come back, because when I return, I'm going to be talking about the Europa League, previewing all those matches coming up.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we went over the MLS first round of the playoffs, And man, we have some crazy games to talk about. So if you missed it, make sure you guys check it out. But now we're going to be talking about the Europa League. Obviously those matches coming up on Thursday. I'm going to preview all of them. Not really go into great detail of them because there are a bunch of games. But just give you guys a quick breakdown of how each team has done so far and what the implications will be on whether they win or lose. So let's get right into it, starting with Villarreal going up against Maccabi Tel Aviv. These are the top two teams in Group I. Villarreal right now lead 9 points with Tel Aviv having 6. And really, Villarreal have dominated this group, which is expected. They are the better team. They have more quality, and they've won every game by a good margin. They've got 12 goals scored to just 4 allowed, while Tel Aviv have just barely won their games. I mean, even though they lost big time in their reverse leg to Villarreal for nothing. They won the other 2 games against Sivasspor and Karabag FK to give them 6 points and a good chance of moving on to the knockout rounds. But in this game, they are certainly at a disadvantage, and they could easily lose this game. Would not be surprised at all. But we'll just have to wait and see for that. Next, we got Ac Athens. Yes, I found out it's Ac Athens, so I sound like an idiot on here saying AEK Athens, EAK Athens. But no, it's Ac Athens versus Zorya Luhansk. The 2 bottom teams in Group G that also has Leicester City and Braga. And Ac Athens have 3 points in their first 3 games. Have a -1 goal differential after they've scored 5, allowed 6. So not terrible. I mean, obviously still have a chance to catch up to Braga. But Zorya Luhansk have just been absolutely dominated against all the teams in this group. Have scored only 2 games in their first 3, but have allowed 9. So it just has not gone well for them. And I actually liked Athens early on, and I feel like they played well for most of their games. I mean, you look at the last game that they played against Zorya, they dominated them 4-1. They played a close game against Leicester 2-1. They were dominated by Braga in the first game of the Europa League, which is pretty surprising. But that's ultimately the difference between those 2 teams. So this game, I expect Ac Athens to take care of business. But again, Europa League, anything can happen. Next, we have Cska Moscow versus Feyenoord. And these are also the bottom 2 teams in Group K. But this is a much tighter group. If Cska Moscow win this one game, they're technically tied with Dynamo Zagreb if they lose. Because the top team in this group has 5 points. Cska have 2. Because they got 2 draws in their 3 games. And it's a very, very tight group. So I feel like anything can really happen in this game. And that's for real. Like I know I've said that in the last 2 games, but that's just because anything can happen in football. But really in this group, I feel like any team can really come out on top here. So this is going to be very exciting to see how that plays out. Next, we have Wolfsburg versus Dynamo Zagreb, the other 2 teams in Group K. I mean, Dynamo have just gotten by with their incredible defense. They've got 2 draws and a win, and have only scored 1 goal. Like, think about that real quick. They've only scored 1 goal and have 2 draws and a win. They know what they're good at. Like I said about Nashville, they know what they're good at, and they execute it to perfection. I mean, right now they haven't lost the game, and they look pretty solid. I mean, you got to be impressed with what they've been able to do. Now, in their last game against Wolfsburg, that was the one that they were able to win, but in large part it was due to Wolfsburg actually having a man down in that game. So I mean that who knows? Obviously that could happen in this game as well, but they can't hope for that. So that they got to expect for Wolfsburg to have that extra man for that extra half of the game that they were without him in the last game. So. This game could be a tight one for sure. Next, we have Liberec versus Hoffenheim, and I'm always going to go for Hoffenheim in these games. I mean, they've been completely dominant. They're one of the best attacking teams in this entire Europa League field. They've scored 11 goals, allowed only 1, so their defense is also playing well. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with the competition they faced so far in the Europa League, but still, I do not expect Liberec to really pose any sort of threat. And on top of that, they've allowed the most goals in this group as well. So that is not a great combination for Liberec and a perfect matchup for Hoffenheim. So expect Hoffenheim to run away with this one. Next, we have Ghent versus Crvena Zvezda, the other two teams in this group. And really, for the most part, Ghent have not really posed any threats to any teams. They've lost all 3 games, have allowed 7 goals, only scored 2. Honestly, the goal differential-wise, it's not as bad as Liberec, but a big time. I mean, that's really mainly because they lost 5-0 to Hoffenheim and 5-1 to Zvezda. They were able to, in the first game, defeat Gent 1-0. So, I mean, that's why Gent are really at the bottom of this group. They haven't really been able to pose a threat to any team, and I don't expect that to change now. I see them losing 4 games in 4 matches, and that is that for Gent. Next, we have Karabag FK versus Sivasspor, and these are the bottom 2 teams in that group with Villarreal and Maccabi Tel Aviv. And Sivasspor have played well. I mean, 6 goals scored, 7 allowed. So defense, obviously, not where they want it to be. It's actually the worst in this group. But Karabag have just not been able to put anything together offensively. They've only scored 1 goal in their first 3 games. Have lost all 3 of those games, and so just makes sense that Sivasspor takes care of business here and makes this a 3 club race for who gets through to the knockout rounds. Next, we have Leicester City versus Braga, and I'm excited to see this one. I mean, these are the top 2 teams in Group G. Leicester City are obviously way more talented, although they are dealing with a lot of injuries. I've said this plenty of times before. And Braga, they played well. I mean, you gotta be impressed with the way they've been able to play. I mean, even though 5 goals, 5 scores allowed, it's kind of average, but they've gotten two wins out of that. You look at the games that they played, and even though they got dominated by Leicester City, they took care of business against Zorya Luhansk and AK Athens. So this is obviously going to be the toughest matchup for them, and if they can at least get a draw, their outlook for making it into the knockout rounds looks very, very good. Next, we have CSKA Sofia versus the Young Boys, and Sofia are in the bottom of this group with just 1 point in their first 3 matches. They have not been able to score a goal yet. That's pretty much the gist of it. You got to score goals to get points, and they just have not been able to do that. They were able to hold off in that game against Roma, which when you really think about it, it's like, how exactly did that happen? Because I mean, they've been dominated by the other 2 teams in this group, and I feel like the Young Boys are going to continue that trend and win this game and put pressure on Roma for the lead in this group. Next, we got Lille versus AC Milan, the obvious headline matchup for this Europa League match day. And, I mean, the first game was very surprising. I mean, Lille absolutely dominated AC Milan 3-0. I obviously did not expect that at all, but that is exactly what happened. Can Lille continue to play at this level? I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, they certainly have the talent, but so do AC Milan. And I just don't see a way for Lille to replicate what they did in the last game. And I feel like this is going to be a lot closer, especially with AC Milan certainly having, they're going to want that revenge after being 3-0'd by Lille. They're the best team in Serie A, and they're going to want to prove it. So I see this game either going Milan's way or getting a draw. Next, we have Antwerp versus Lask. And here you got the 2 middle teams. I mean, this is a very tight group. Lask, Antwerp, and Tottenham are all tied with 6 points. So this is the game where LASK Antwerp can really make some distance here if one can really, dominate the other. But I just don't expect that to happen. I see this game ending in a draw. So, yeah, I feel like these teams are going to stay close, and it's going to be very tight race to the finish. Next, we have Arsenal versus Molde. And here, you got the two top teams in this group. Arsenal obviously dominating with 9 points in their first 3 games. They've scored 9 goals, allowed only 2. They played really, really well. And aside from that early scare against Rapid, they've been dominating the field in the Europa League. And I see that happening again against Molde. I just don't see Molde really putting a good, run here against Arsenal. They've allowed 5 goals. They've only scored 4. Even though Arsenal's defense is nothing to go home and cheer about, it's going to be good enough to stop Molde from doing what they want. Next, you got Sparta Prague versus Celtic, the other two teams in that Lille Milan group. And obviously, I was not expecting Celtic to be the one that's on the bottom looking up, but that's where they are. I mean, Sparta have won a game, and which one was it? I'm pretty sure it's the one against Celtic. Yeah, they were able to defeat Celtic 4-1. I remember that, and that was extremely surprising. But yeah, Celtic are just not living up to their expectations. Could they get this win and get that revenge? We'll have to wait and see for that. But they should. They certainly should. Next, we have Nietzsche versus Slavia Praha. And Slavia Praha, surprisingly, leading this group that also has Leverkusen. So, right now, Nietzsche, I'm always rooting for them. And this is a tight group because each team has gotten a win, at least one win here. But Nietzsche need to take care of business. They lost to Slavia Praha in their last game 3-2. It was close, and they certainly had an opportunity. They need to perform better, and I'm always going for the French clubs, but they have not given me any reason to think that they could, pull it off. They have by far the worst defense in this group, and I really can't see them winning this game. Even though Slavia Praha are not anything to go home and shout about or praise about, it's just they're definitely better than Nietzsche. Next, we have PSV versus PAOK, and these are the two middle teams in the Group E. PSV only 1 win in their first 3 games, only 3 points. Their defense has been atrocious. 7 goals allowed, only 4 goals scored. And PAOK has been very solid. 5 goals scored, 2 goals allowed. They've been good on both ends. They haven't lost a game yet, and I feel like they can pull out another win, but PSV certainly have the quality. They just need to put it together for a full game. And after what happened in the last game between these two, PAOK absolutely dominated them. I'm sure PSV are going to be looking for some revenge. Next, we have Tottenham versus Ludogorets, and I expect Tottenham to take care of business. The way they've been playing as of late, they're one of the best teams in the Premier League. They're in great form right now. Ludogorets, on the other hand, not so much. They did win their last 3. They've won their last 3 league games, and they just haven't been able to be as dominant in the Europa League. It's obviously a different level, a different style of play, and they have not been able to adjust to it. Next, we got Standard Liège versus Lech Poznan. And honestly, with me doing so much research on Poland players, now I really know what Lech Poznan is. A lot of great young Polish players go there to start their careers, and they just have. They do have 3 points in their first 3 games. They were able to get a win. Was that against Standard Liège? Let's check that real quick. Yes, that was in their last game against Standard Liège, but they were not able to win against Rangers or Benfica, even though those games were close. On the other hand, Standard Liège have not been able to be competitive in this group so far. 1 goal scored, only 8, and had 8 allowed. So that's good for a negative 7 goal differential. Just not performing well at all, and I expect Lech Poznan to take care of business here. and make this a very intriguing, final stretch in this group. Next, we have CFR Cluj versus Roma. And Roma, obviously leading this group, would be surprised if they weren't, with 2 wins and a draw. In the reverse leg, Roma absolutely dominated Cluj 5-0, and I expect more of the same here, with Roma winning this game and just pretty much locking themselves into the knockout rounds. Now we got Napoli versus Rijeka, another very dominant Serie A side, but have not been as good as you would expect in this Europa League group stage. They are tied with AC Alkmaar and Real Sociedad with 6 points, while Rijeka are in the outside looking in. They have 0 points, have allowed 2 goals, have allowed 7 goals, and scored 2. So they just have not been good on either side. And I expect that to be the same against Napoli. I mean, Napoli have only scored 3 goals in their first 3 games, so it's not like they've been world beaters in the Europa League, but they should be good enough to defeat Rijeka. Now we got Rangers versus Benfica, the top 2 teams in Group D, and this is going to be an exciting game. I feel like both these teams have been playing very well. Benfica, obviously, a lot of quality there, and they have some great, they have a good back line. Rangers have been really good as well. 6 goals, only 3 allowed. That's best in this group. And it's going to be a very, very exciting game between the top 2 teams in this group. In the reverse leg, what happened? We had a 3-3 draw. So obviously it was very exciting, and I expect the exact same thing in this reverse leg. Both these teams just trying to get one up on the other. Next, we have Granada versus AC Ammonia, and these are 2 teams on different sides of the spectrum here. You have Granada leading the group with 7 points, while AC Ammonia are with 1 point in their first 3 games. Granada have been dominant with their defense, only 1 goal allowed. They have only scored 4 goals, so that's not very dominant there. But they've won 2 games, allowed and drew 1. So they've been dominant. 7 points in 3 matches. That's what you want. Just continue to get points, get results. And I feel like they're going to take care of business here. This is a very big opportunity for them to clinch a knockout round spot. And I feel like they're going to do just that. Next, you have Bayer Leverkusen versus Hapoel Beersheva. And Leverkusen need to take care of business here. They are the better team. They're in the Europa League. They need to just play well. They obviously got a better attack than any other team here, and they need to do what they can do. In the reverse leg, let's see what happened here. Leverkusen won 4-2. They need to tighten it up on the defensive end, but continue to be electric on attack, because that is their strength. And if they can do that, they'll win this group. Next, we have Dundalk versus Rapid Wien, and these are the 2 bottom teams in Group B. Rapid do have a chance to win here and really make this a tight finish in the group. They were able to. They actually messed up against Rapid in their last game, losing to them. Oh no, my apologies. It's late, guys. I'm pretty tired. But Rapid Wien were able to have a really tight win against Dundalk in the last game to win their 3 points. They need to do that again in order to have a chance. I don't think it's going to happen. I feel like this game's going to be tighter than what's expected, and I see Rapid Wien either drawing or losing to Dundalk, actually. And last, we have AC Alkmaar versus Real Sociedad. And in this game, this is a game between the 2 teams, 2 of the top teams in this entire competition right now. AC Alkmaar playing extremely well with 5 goals scored, 2 allowed. Real Sociedad, on the other hand, their defense has been solid, only 1 goal allowed in their first 3 games, but their offense has been much less, has been much worse than advertised. In my opinion, that's where their biggest strengths are. You got David Silva, you got Mikel. Who was that? I just want to make sure I'm not mixing up my team. Mikel Oyarzabal, Mikel Marino. I know I had it right. Alexander Isak. They have players, but they just have not been able to translate that into the Europa League. They need to be able to do that in order to have a chance to lead this group and even make it into the knockout rounds. Because if they lose this game, they are looking on the outside, looking in. I should have said they're on the outside looking in. Yeah, way to go, Steve. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys come back, because when I return, I'm going to be talking about the top 10 Poland players right now.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, I previewed all of the games for the Europa League coming up this week. And now we're going to be talking about the top 10 Poland players right now. If you guys don't know the series that I'm doing right now, I'm talking about the top 20 countries in the world, technically on FIFA World Rankings. And I'm going from 20 to 1, talking about the top 10 players in each country. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the top 10 Poland players. So let's get right to it, starting with Łukasz Fabianski. One of the more consistent goalkeepers that you'll see in the Premier League. Maybe not the most skilled, but he has been an important part of the Poland national team for years. And honestly, while he wasn't really that huge a part of it during his 20s, he's been one of their biggest contributors over the past 5 years. He has seen it all, really, and is an excellent leader between the sticks. He's been a starting keeper in the Premier League for the past 7 seasons and has been one of the more consistent keepers in the English top flight. His skills, he's got incredible positioning and reaction time. And his willingness to get off of his line and knowing when to do it is easily his greatest trait. But just laying it out for his team and just knowing when and where he needs to do that is certainly why Łukasz Fabianski deserves to be in the top 10 Poland players right now. Number 9, we have Karol Lanetti, the 25-year-old center midfielder from Torino. And you look at his club stats, he's got, I know I didn't say that for Fabianski, I should have. Whatever, we're already past it, so I'm just going to keep on going. But for Lanetti, he's got 239 matches played, 201 starts, and he's got 18 goals and 22 assists to go with that in his club stats. And for country, he's got 29 caps, 17 starts, and 2 goals scored. Lanetti is an excellent box-to-box midfielder that utilizes his control and vision to control the tempo of the game. He's an extremely unselfish player that is always looking to make the right play, but he's also got the ability to score some great goals as well. Definitely don't take that away. However, Lanetti is also a solid dribbler, which allows him to get past multiple defenders, and he has the IQ to make the right play once he's done that. And that's honestly probably his best trait. It's the fact that he always seems to make the right decision and has the vision to, execute that decision. He does everything that you can ask for from a midfielder, from getting teammates involved, scoring goals, and he hustles on defense, and of course has a high motor, which is extremely important for a box-to-box midfielder. He knocks down all of those boxes, or he checks off all those boxes, and is certainly deserving of being a top 10 Poland player right now, and he's going to be a fixture in that midfield for years to come. Next, we have Christoph Piatek, the 25-year-old striker from Hertha Berlin. You look at his stats, he's got 191 matches played, 150 starts, to go with 80 goals and 11 assists. You look at his national stats, he has not been able to play that much with them right now. 13 caps, 8 starts, and 6 goals. But you look at that, at the goal rates. I mean, 80 goals in 191 club matches, and 6 goals in 13 matches. I mean, this guy is a bona fide scorer. I mean, just a very good striker that unfortunately is just unlucky to play the same position as a few Polish players that are a bit further up this list. And that's the main reason he hasn't really been getting that much time for the national team. Now, he is an underrated dribbler that is able to get out of even the toughest of situations with his control. He doesn't have incredible speed or athleticism, but his acceleration allows him to get by defenders with ease. He's also got a great work rate and helps on defense whenever the ball is dispossessed. You often see him coming from his position up front to go and disrupt an attacker's run. Now, his best skill, however, certainly has to be his goal scoring. I mean, he's an absolute monster with his right foot, but he can score with the left as well, and he knows exactly where to be to give his teammates on open passing lanes. And honestly, I feel like that's one of the best traits a striker can have, especially a young one. I mean, he's 25 years old. He's got a lot of playing time ahead of him. If you know when to make those runs and how to get yourself open for teammates to cross it into you, I feel like that's such an important trait for a striker, and honestly one of the most important, because sure, you can kick the ball extremely well, but if you can get into your positions to make things easier for your teammates, that's just incredible. That goes a long way. That's what I was trying to say. Next, at number 7, we have Camille Glick, 32-year-old center back from Benevento. I mean, one of the most experienced players on this list. Camille Glick has 409 matches played, 404 stats, to go with 28 goals and 6 assists in the club level. And for the national team, he's got 62 caps, 61 starts, 4 goals, and an assist. Now, Glick has been a staple in the Poland backline for years, and at 32 years old, he is still a vital piece of the national team. Obviously not as good as he used to be, not as athletic, but still certainly as smart a defender and as they come for the Polish side. And he also has incredible strength to match with that incredible intellect that he's able to. He's pretty much capable of anchoring any defense he plays for. Now, his anticipation for where the ball is going to be is incredible, and he's excellent at knowing when to commit on a slide or a tackle. Is just very excellent with that as well. And for many years, he's been the best defender Poland has had. However, that is changing. Times are certainly changing. But Camille Glick is still one of the more influential pieces and one of the best leaders for this Poland national side. He'll certainly be extremely important for when the Euros 2021 comes around. Not sure if he'll be there for World Cup qualifying. I mean, he will. He definitely will. But still, he is no longer the greatest defender for Poland right now, because that honor goes to number 6 on our list, Jan Bernardic. Maybe I said his name wrong. Maybe I was trying to be too European there. Jan Bednarek, whatever. 24-year-old center back from Southampton. You look at his club stats, 132 matches played, 124 starts, 3 goals and 4 assists, and he's got 26 caps, 23 starts, and 1 goal for Poland. He's definitely an up-and-coming defender. Bednarek is the present and future of Poland's backline. He is a strong presence in the back line, and despite being so young, he's a very smart defender that is rarely caught out of position. Jesus. Last season, he was one of the best defenders in the Premier League, ranking near the top in tackles, interceptions, clearances, and he's one of the main pieces to a Southampton team that is shocking the world right now with a top 5, I should say, position 9 games into the season. Just incredible. And aside from those excellent defensive skills, he's also very solid with the ball at his feet and is able to stay calm under pressure. And in my opinion, as a defender, that is one of the best qualities that you can ask for from a young defender. Because even when defenders get older, I mean, some still get rattled when they got a lot of people around them. But for Bernardic, he's actually very, very smart with the ball. And he's going to be leading this backline of Poland for years to come, no doubt. At number 5, we have I don't know how to say his first name, but Milik, the 26-year-old striker from Napoli. He's got 252 matches played, 154 starts to go with 98 goals and 27 assists. For the Poland team, he's got 49 matches played, 49 caps, I should say, 34 starts to go with 13 goals and 10 assists, so certainly a bit more of a playmaker for the national team. But Milik is a premier target man who makes his living in the box. He can score with either foot and is excellent in the air as well. And despite his lanky body type, he's deceptively strong and gets into the best positions to receive the ball. He rarely makes mistakes when he gets it in that area, but that is far from the only skills he brings to the table. I mean, Milik is excellent at linking up with his teammates and is very solid at controlling the ball. He won't wow you with any flair or speed, but he's very smart with the ball at his feet. Like I said, he usually tries to get into those great positions by linking up play. Kind of reminds me a bit of Cavani in that sense. Certainly doesn't have the same kind of work rate, but is still certainly a very, very good striker. And it just sucks because right now at Napoli, he's getting pretty much no playing time. And he actually hasn't gotten playing time at all this season. Obviously playing behind a lot of really strong players, and Victor Osimhen, getting transferred there this past window. So it's just not working out for Milik there. But he's just trying to find a place where he can get some playing time. There's certainly a lot of teams that are interested in him, and he obviously wants to get that playing time before the Euros come around, because if he doesn't play, he's not going to be selected. That's just the way it goes. But Milik is certainly one of the best Poland players right now. At number 4, we have Piotr Zielinski, the 26-year-old center midfielder from Napoli. And I shouldn't probably say attacking midfielder, because he is one of the most promising Poland players at the moment and really for some time. He is an incredible, versatile attacking midfielder. And you look at the stats, he's got 281 matches played, 180 starts, 28 goals, and 25 assists. And for Poland, he's got, at 26 years old, he's already got 52 caps, 42 starts, 5 goals, and 7 assists. He's a pretty athletic player as well. He can beat defenders with his pace and strength. He loves to dribble the ball forward and get aggressive in attack. That's pretty much where he loves to live. But Zielinski also has very solid vision and will pick out some defensive cutting passes to teammates that are heading into the box, making those runs into the box. He nearly finds them every single time. He's just very, very good at it. His dribbling skills are very good as well, and he always looks more comfortable with the ball at his feet. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, he can certainly improve, but offensively, he's one of Poland's greatest players. At number 3, we have Grzegorz Krychowiak, the 30-year-old center defensive midfielder from Lokomotiv Moscow. I mean, also one of the more experienced players on this team. He's got 348 matches played, 322 starts to go with 30 goals and 11 assists at the club level. And for Poland, he's got 65 matches played, or I guess caps, 62 starts to go with 4 goals and 3 assists. Now, Krychowiak is a veteran presence in the midfield and just in the national team as a whole, and pretty much any club he plays for. Krychowiak is a box-to-box midfielder that can do pretty much anything on the pitch. He can score goals from just about anywhere, dribble past defenders. He makes it look easy, even though he's a stocky player, but he's certainly got the agility to get by them. Has solid vision, makes pinpoint passes very often, can make pretty much any pass needed, and he's also a very strong defender. That's pretty much his bread and butter. His defense. He's the guy that hangs back. He can be a deep lying playmaker at times. And honestly, he's incredibly vital to everything Poland does, as he sets the tempo in the midfield and is one of their key leaders. That's honestly the most important thing there. At number 2, we have Wojciech Szczesny. I actually tried his first name for the first time. Now, Suzesni is a 30-year-old goalkeeper from Juventus, and he's been one of the most rejuvenated players as of late. You look at his club stats: 374 matches played, 373 starts, a 740 save percentage, and 137 clean sheets. That's incredible. You look at the national team, though, he hasn't been as good. 32 matches played, I keep saying matches played, caps, 28 starts, and a 636 save percentage and 10 clean sheets. Honestly, Fabianski has been better with the national team than Szczesny, but there's no denying that Szczesny is the better keeper. He's one of the best keepers in the entire world, and Szczesny is the number one keeper for one of the biggest clubs in the world, Juventus. That obviously means something. It's not like, oh, okay, yeah, they're just putting him there. That's one of the weak spots. No, he's one of the most vital pieces for Juventus. It took a bit for his career to take off. Obviously he was at Arsenal for a while, went to Roma, where that's kind of really where things started to heat up, but then he replaced the legendary goalkeeper Buffon. Not anybody can just do that. You don't just replace, Gianluigi Buffon. It just doesn't happen. But he did it pretty much as good as anybody could have ever expected. His reaction time, positioning, and leadership between the sticks is one of the most important and consistent pieces for Juventus. And really, it's one of the reasons why they've been able to stay as good as they have for so long. And now his performances for Poland, like I said, hasn't been as impressive, but he's still their top goalkeeper by a good margin, and he will be their best choice for Euro 2021 and, of course, the World Cup qualifiers. And then the moment we've all been waiting for, number 1, Robert Lewandowski, 32-year-old striker from Bayern Munich. You look at his stats, ridiculous. 532 matches played, 479 starts to go with 384 goals and 83 assists. He's got 74 caps, 65 starts, 49 goals, and 10 assists. There really isn't much to be said here, except for the fact that he's, in my opinion, the greatest Polish player to ever play football. It really shouldn't be up for debate. I know there's some guys that have played well. I honestly can't even say their names. It's very, very hard. But he's also arguably one of the best strikers of all time and currently the greatest striker in the world. And Lewandowski is the undisputed superstar for the Poland national team. Now, obviously, from Szczesny, maybe not from Szczesny, but from these top two down, it takes a bit of a drop. But still, it helps that you got a really strong goalkeeper and then you got a superstar striker. And something that you don't normally see from Lewandowski in Bayern that you see very often in Poland, that, obviously because he doesn't have the same quality of players around him to get him the ball in the box. He has to, usually go up the field, go into the midfield a bit more, get the ball from there, and then utilize his dribbling, pace, acceleration to get by defenders and, make magic happen on his own. He's had to do it on numerous occasions because they just don't have the same type of playmakers that obviously he has going for him in Bayern Munich. So it's just he's just incredible. It's just he can pretty much do it all. Those are the set piece goals. Obviously the solo goals I've already talked about. He can pretty much score in any way you need, either foot, head, knee, whatever you want. Lewandowski can do it. And it's actually incredible. I didn't even know he was 32 years old. But, he's 32, and obviously he's starting to get towards the end of his career. As a striker, obviously, he doesn't have to rely on his pace and athleticism that much as a striker. But still, he's nearing the end. He's still going to be there for this next World Cup run. And it's going to be very important for Poland's present, obviously, and probably near future. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys keep on listening, and I was about to say make sure you guys stick around for the next segment. You guys, if you guys are listening, you guys know that was me setting that up. So I was just trying to change that real quick, but I had to just say it. So just I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And continue to listen to me. And as always, thank you for listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you, and have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.